Alright, so after the previous video where we explored the practicality of the Klingon batleth in a hands-on test with sparring included, link down below, now let's check out how it fares against a longsword. Without further ado, let's just get right to the sparring, and there will be a bit of commentary and then I'll sum up my observations and conclusions afterwards. That first cut was probably too far away to hit my actual face, but it touched my mask, which caused kind of a startle response, and I jerked the batleth upward. So I totally dropped the ball on that one, although the fast follow-up cut might have gotten me even if I hadn't been half asleep. There was no reason to bomb that defense against follow-up cut, it was just me reacting too slowly. Here the batleth is flexing its defense. That would have been harder to block with a sword. This is something Sindri is quite good at, making leg cuts look like horizontal cuts to the body until the very last moment. Also making actual horizontal cuts to the body look like diagonal cuts to the head. I managed to block his two-hit combination and he's like, "I'ma do it again," and it works. Sort of. That slash might still send him to Stovacor. There's the reach disadvantage kicking my butt. He can hit me before I can even threaten him. And yes, I know, I need to move forward, not backward. Habits from using weapons with longer reach. That normally works. Not here. My counter thrust was in and of itself good, but that's not happening after a powerful cut to the hamstring. And now, swapping weapons. I don't have anything really resembling a Vulcan Lurpa, so we just went with the next closest thing I've got, a two-handed axe. Axe shenanigans. It doesn't matter if you block the haft. The head will find you. Alright, so there are a few important things to point out here. For one, there is an inherent bias in this, simply because both of us are a lot more familiar with this and know actual techniques than that. Maybe there are schools or clubs where they teach you actual Klingon techniques with a batleth, so we're trying to figure out how to best use it. And there are certain things that work quite well. As you've seen in part 1, batleth versus batleth, these single-handed cuts are quite useful because they give you more reach and they can be pretty quick and deceptive and all that. That also works against the longsword, and its protectiveness is a benefit here as well. However, at least with this bias of being more skilled with a longsword than with a batleth, I have to say, particularly when we swapped and I was the one using the longsword against the batleth, I did not feel all that threatened. And that has a lot to do with the reach. Reach is really quite a big deal. Now, at least if you've practiced the way that I have and most of my training partners, we just like to use superior reach and move in a way that allows us to stay outside of the opponent's shorter reach while threatening them with the longer weapon. You know, like with the sword in particular, if you move away while they're coming at you and target the arms, which are further forward, then you can stay at a distance where they cannot threaten you, but you can threaten their arms. Another important factor is weight. Generally, we prefer steel swords for sparring, but in this case we went with synthetics for both, simply because a steel blade against this nylon trainer here would just chew it up. So we had to go synthetic in both cases. So both of them are lighter than the steel equivalent. The synthetic practice sword is about 80% of a lighter longsword and half of kind of mid-range. There's a lot of variation. Depending on the type, a longsword can weigh anywhere from 1 kilogram to about 1.8. As far as the steel batleth is concerned that I've had made, that weighed 3 kilograms, and the trainer weighs 1.3, so that's significantly less. It's in fact about a quarter of what the overblown canonical weight is. I do think you could make a real batleth lighter than that. You could get under 3 kilograms, but I think you should aim for around 2.5 or ideally even less. Even this, weirdly enough, it's pretty light, right? It really doesn't seem like a big deal. But as you keep fighting, it feels somewhat sluggish, actually, compared to the longsword. Now, you also have to keep in mind that our performance in sparring depends greatly on the time and day. Most of the time, it's in the evening after a day of work when we try these things out, which means that at that point we're already tired and everything. So, but at the same time, that affects both of us, and we're also swapping weapons to account for personal differences. And the result was very similar. The longsword had a definite advantage, simply because of its agility. You know, the balance and reach makes quite a difference. If you hold the batleth low, then it's obviously very forward weighted. If you hold it further apart, it's faster, but then you have even less reach. So it does make it pretty tricky. However, taking into account all these limitations and unintentional biases, I think if you actually had a well-developed fighting style, you know, a martial art with plenty of useful techniques that are designed for this. I think we figured out a few pretty useful ones, but of course you can develop it way more. I think this would do really quite well. It's, like I pointed out in the other video, this is definitely nothing to scoff at. It is most definitely functional. Even though it could be improved in some ways, it's quite good as it is. Especially when you remember that this is sort of a ritualized dueling weapon quite often. And in judicial duels in history, they used a bunch of pretty strange stuff that wasn't used otherwise on the battlefield or carried for civilian self-defense. And of course, the setting where this weapon design is at home would pit it mainly against another weapon of this type. You would have a batleth versus batleth duel, or it would be used against somebody who doesn't even have a melee weapon at all, ambushing someone who's using a phaser or some other ranged weapon. Yeah, makes perfect sense in that case. Anyway, hope you found this interesting. Thanks for watching, and have a good one, folks.